Maybe don't know.
This time, next time to build. This 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 time power. This time to build power. This time to build power. This time to build power.
What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Chris Hampton. Welcome to episode 198 of the Power Company Podcast, brought to you by PowerCompanyClimbing.com. I am here at Power Company headquarters in Lander, Wyoming, and while I'm recording this, you may hear sounds of furious packing behind me because Lana is fulfilling orders. We're having a big flash sale. If you haven't seen it on our social medias yet, then by all means, check the show notes right there in your pocket supercomputer. It will send you directly to our website where you can find all of the things that are on sale. It's boulder bags, crag kits, finger care kits, several of the books, all of our apparel, I believe. Pretty much everything is on sale. We're trying to make room. We've got a lot of plans for the spring, for the summer, for the fall, but we're running out of room in our little tiny Lana-sized storage room for all of the stuff that we ship to you guys. So you'll probably hear Lana in the background. You want to say hi, Lana?
Hi, everybody. Keep buying stuff so we have more room for new stuff.
Do what Lana says. I do what Lana says because if I don't, I get yelled at constantly. So you should probably do what Lana says as well.
Or I'll yell at them too.
All right, today on the podcast, I've got a few clips from an episode over at Sins and Suffers. That's my friend Mario Stanley's podcast. You've heard him here on this podcast several times before. And he recently had professional climber Nina Williams on his podcast, and they've graciously allowed me to put a few of those clips on here that I found particularly poignant, and I think Nina just has a really fantastic way of explaining her process. A lot of professional climbers got to where they are because they're good at climbing, but not necessarily because they understand why they're good. So it's tough to pull that out of them sometimes. And Mario does a great job with this interview with Nina, and Nina is just one of the most well-spoken about her thoughts, feelings, her entire process. So let's listen to a couple of these clips, and then after you hear these, if your interest is piqued, which it should be, head over to Sins and Suffers. You can also find that link right there in your show notes in your pocket supercomputer. All right, this first clip is Nina talking about a subject that a lot of us have already heard her discuss, which is how she cheated at a comp when she was a young competitive climber. But this clip is her discussing how she has gotten past letting that thing that she did when she was younger define her now. Something that we can all learn a lot from, something that I know has been a huge part of my life, and I love how Nina puts it all into words here.
I think because I really put that part of myself away because I was ashamed and I was afraid of that person that I was. But since climbing outside and actually getting into coaching and being able to dig more into that side of me, I've unlocked it, but in a way that I've brought it out into the light, and I've talked about it more and said, okay, this was me back then, and it's still a part of me, but it's okay. I would never cheat again now, but I can look at that fear and say that was this scared little girl who was just so worried about what other people thought of her.
I love that even when she's confronting her past and coming to grips with it, she sees it as a process, and she identifies the fear and figures out a way to accept it and move past it. It's brilliant. This next clip is Nina talking about the early days of deciding she wanted to be sponsored and where she wanted to put her focus as a professional climber. And honestly, this is something that I wish more professional climbers understood. And that frankly I think the future looks more like.
That's a thing.
Yeah, it's totally a thing. So one thing led to another. I reached out to companies and was like, hey, here's my story. I focused on the narrative a lot. I was like, here's why I love climbing. Here's why I want to continue climbing. And I recognized at that point that it wasn't just about climbing strong. It wasn't just about the grade. It was about the person that you were and the gift, not the gift, but the things that you could give back to the community.
So important, not only for the pro climbers, but really for all of us who want to be a part of this community. If we want to be surrounded by it, and that's why most of us are here, then we should be considering how we can give back to it. For this next clip, I'm jumping around a little bit. At the end of Mario's episodes, he likes to ask people what their most recent sins and their most recent suffers are. And Nina's response to what her most recent suffer is, I found really interesting.
Well, given the current pandemic and the travel stuff, I have been sticking close to home. And honestly, my sufferfest right now is school. And I'm finishing my undergrad. It's not like I'm getting my doctorate or med school or anything. But for me, going back to school has been a huge hurdle for me because for so long, I told myself that I was not smart enough to finish higher education.
Now, you and I know better. We can listen to Nina talk here. We can watch the videos. We see that incredibly brave person, and we know better. But that's not always how it works with self-esteem or with self-worth. They don't always connect the dots. And I think a lot of us know that. And I think that Nina talking through it here and especially discussing her process of working through it is really brave and really admirable. This next and final clip is Nina discussing what she's likely most famous for, her highball bouldering. And the way that she articulates her process, in my opinion, has so much carryover to the rest of our lives and the rest of our climbing. And I appreciate that she's able to do that.
Going through the process of doing, say, Too Big to Flail for Real Rock and having that story out in the world and having it out in the public, that it was a very personal thing for me. And highballing remains something that it's very intimate. And I have some things I'm working through right now about the idea of doing a highball and having it be filmed and having it out there. It's like, I don't really want to encourage highballing in the sense that it should be for yourself and not for anyone else. And so this is me digging into my 14-year-old, little girl who's cheating in those competitions, who's climbing for other people.
So smart. You should absolutely go and check out this entire interview. These clips are only a really, really small part of all of the gems that she drops in there. And Mario does a great job facilitating this conversation. The energy that Mario brings to his conversations is my favorite thing about the Sins and Suffers podcast. So go check that out. The link is right there in your show notes, in your pocket supercomputer, or you can find it at mariostanley.com or in any of your places where you cast your pods. All right, don't forget, flash sale. It's going on all this week. Ends Friday, I believe that's the 26th at 10 a.m. All of our apparel, crag kits, boulder bags, lots of our books, so many products on sale. We're trying to make room. Help us out. Normally, I would say you can find us on the Instagrams and the Facebooks, but don't find us there right now. Find us at powercompanyclimbing.com/specials or at the link right there in your show notes in your pocket supercomputer. And there's absolutely no sense to go looking on Twitter. Lana, you want to tell them what we don't do?
We don't tweet. Chirp, chirp, peep, peep. We scream like eagles.
This time, It's time to build.